Right, you are definitely right on time for yet another episode of the Systems Audit right here on EAMG TV. And of course, what we do on this particular show, we actually put different systems on blast and be able to audit whether they are working and what needs to be done to be able to have them work better. And today on the program, we are going to be analyzing a very crucial, monumental event in the history of the East African Community Integration Progress. And that is one of the events that is always in the community's calendar of activities, and that's the Heads of State Summit. And this is going to be an analysis of the just concluded 25th Ordinary Summit of the East Africa Heads of State Summit. If you're joining us for the very first time, if you're hearing my voice for the very first time, as always, my name is Eugene. And I want to welcome you to also like and subscribe, also share across at EAMG TV, different platforms, that is the digital platforms. And you can also get in touch with me directly at Eugene. And Nangwe. The hashtag to use, as always, is the Systems Audit. Now, like I said earlier on, we are going to be discussing the events that took place at the East African Community Heads of State Summit. And of course, on the program today, I'm joined right here in studio by none other than Kennedy Abuya, who's a lawyer, and he's also a consultant on different issues, but also very, very well versed on regional integration issues. Kennedy Abuya, thank you so much for making time.
I appreciate it.
Asante sana. Also joining us virtually from Arusha is none other than the Executive Director of the East African Business Council, EABC, Ahmed Farah. Thank you so much for making time. And I want to start with you, Bwana Ahmed Farah, from Arusha. That's the land where this particular summit did take place. And I want to hear your thoughts in terms of your quick takeaways, because at the end of the day, the region needs to be able to see its organs moving and of course everything moving in tandem. What are some of the things that stood out for you from this particular just concluded Heads of State Summit?
Thank you very much, Anangwe, for having me. Good afternoon, viewers. We had weighty and consequential decisions made at the 25th Ordinary Summit of the EAC Heads of State Summit. And I call them weighty and consequential because they have direct impact on the progress of integration. Some of the decisions looked at fairness of partner state contribution towards the EAC. The changed formula will go a long way in enhancing fairness between the partner states in their contributions. And there's those directives that were met, such as elimination of all NTBs by mid of this year, 30th June. That is a serious call, and it will have direct impact on ease of doing business within our region. So it was a fresh of breath air to hear some of the declarations that were made, and we're looking forward to see how this will be executed or rolled out, and monitor closely the implication to the private sector, who are the drivers of integration, as you may know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And also, coming from you, would be hearing more, especially from the voice of the private sector arm of the region. Like you just said it right there, we'll be delving a bit deeper into what you just mentioned right there. Kennedy, I want to hear your take as well. I know we will be going deeper into each and every items, from the leadership and direction of the EAC, to the contribution aspects, to the weighty matter of, if you're looking to pick up to be part of the positions that are usually vied for, then there are certain measures that you must meet as a country. So we'll talk more a bit about that, but I want to hear your preliminary thoughts about this summit and its activities.
Thank you. I just want to pick it from where the ED has left it. In fact, for the very first time on this 25th summit, we have seen a lot of statements, and very heavy statements that we've actually been lacking in the region. Now, there's that perception, and of course we all see that the region is growing, but it was forming more of a club of political elites, such that we were not seeing the rules, being, enforced. So what we have seen basically takes the region from the political aspect to now rule-based kind of integration. And when we talk about rule-based, this is where now we say the leaders have realized that some of those ills that actually slowing down the regional integrations were because they were so lenient to each other. But right now, if you look at even in terms of the statement concerning which partner states nominates who, one of the grounds is that first you must oblige to the treaty provisions.
Fully ratify.
Exactly. Secondly, you must also live by the same rules, meaning things like contributions, you must ensure that you are up to date. That's when you can now benefit, because you are not going to subscribe to a regional formation, yet you are not actually supporting the same. But again, you also want to benefit, because whoever is nominated to represent his or her country, particularly in those bigger or senior positions, it's a benefit to the partner state from which that person is coming from. So we have seen, that kind of shift. And final but not least, in terms of looking at it, we have also seen a waiver of the areas that were, overbearing to some of the partner states. And that waiver, we believe now they have acted to tell them, hey, we don't have any problem as long as now we create an enable environment for you to
stay up to date,
to now begin from where. And in terms of sanctions, they have indirectly mentioned that partner states will be sanctions, not only because they are not going to be able to nominate if they are not in arrears, but they can also take other further steps in terms of showing them that they are not playing by the books. But again, we're going to discuss that.
We'll talk a bit more about that. But I want to bring in Edie again on this, especially now from a private sector voice perspective, and let's pick up from the leadership change that we saw take place. We did witness that, and probably for the viewers who missed on that very momentous moment, I want us just to play this particular clip of that moment where President William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, did hand over to President Yoweri Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda. Then we come back and be able to analyze what this particular shift in the leadership from a summit chair perspective will have on the region from a private sector perspective. Let's take a look.
You will hand over the gavel to the incoming chair, and the chair of the EAC Summit of Heads of State, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will assume the position of the chair. Congratulations, Your Excellency.
There you have it. Very important session. But of course, Edie, my question to you would be, there are those who probably see this kind of sessions just as, for formality. But make me understand from where you sit, the kind of importance that this sort of rotation is going to have in shaping the regional integration, but from a private sector growth perspective. What is it that you expect from whoever takes over the mantle of leadership from a chair of the Heads of State Summit is concerned?
Thank you. Well, I think firstly, before I talk about the specific handover that was done, most important is whenever there's a transition, the onus is on the incoming chair to see to it that all the declarations that have been made implemented within the timelines provided. So, for instance, in the 25th one, you saw the commitments made to eliminate the NTBs by 30th June. That is significant for the business environment. We would expect that to be a priority for the incoming chair. And a lot of these NTBs have been persistent for long. Such as the pressure of closing goods and people across the border clearance times have really impacted on the cost of doing business, and that cost is always transferred to the consumer. Issues to do with, for instance, the mutual recognition of standards. They are a bottleneck for our ability to move around our goods when they have to be tested and retested in every country. Issues to do with labor mobility. So all those, if at all they're going to be cleared by the incoming chair, by the timelines provided, it will be a success to everybody, most of the private sector. But what is the significance? It is a significant moment for obviously the incoming chair. The holder of the seat wields a lot of power or has strong agenda setting authority for the community. These issues to do with what is prioritized, what is followed up, has the ability to apply political pressure to unblock a lot of these issues that are pending or still depends on collective actions, national implementation of commitments made, the ability of the secretariat to function. The chair has quite a bit of influence to see to it that they get supported and facilitated. So it's an important occasion for the community, and it's a position that has significant authority.
Yeah, I'm going to come to you, Kennedy. But while you still have the mic, AD, I think there's a sort of a concern for private sector bodies across the region, and probably also EAC, citizens from the region, especially on the level of consistency. If the implementation momentum is highly dependent on who is the chair of the Heads of State Summit in that particular sense, then how do we ensure there's consistency in that momentum? Because at some point, there are moments where the citizens have felt we don't feel the region, we don't feel the integration process. But then there are moments where, there's that strength, you feel it, depending on who is actually the chair. How do we move away from that personalization to institutionalization so that there is a level of consistency and it doesn't matter who is the chair of the Heads of State Summit or not?
That's a good question. I am not sure it's entirely correct to say that the clearance of the issues or the commitments made being addressed depends on the person holding the seat or the chairmanship. There's a lot of structured engagement processes that lead to resolution of issues that have been addressed or raised through different mechanisms, whether they're from the private sector, direct submissions to the Secretariat through the Council of Ministers, or through the mechanism that already been set up for capturing and reporting NTBs through the national monitoring committees and regional monitoring committees. The point I'm making is the circumstances at which these issues get addressed, not necessarily dependent on who is the chair. It is an issue of case by case. What is the NTB? What is the commitment of the partner states to address these NTBs? Are we looking at ourselves as a collaborative, or we are embracing integration? When I say collaborative is different from integration, it's the spirit of integration will move faster in addressing the NTBs, any bottlenecks in doing business across the region. But when we have the mindset of collaboration, my concession to issues that will lead to business, the goods and people moving faster will be pegged on many other factors, which at a sovereign level, I may decide to commit to or not to commit to. Again, I want to reiterate that really it's not dependent on who is in the chair. Is the case. The issue is what is the NTB, what is the commitment that is being pursued, and what is the spirit of EAC partner states? Are we committing to the integration, meaning that we are committed to provide a living experience to the businesses of what integration is all about, or we're just in need to collaborate to a certain level, depending on our interests?
Right. Kennedy, I want to read your thoughts on that, because that there's that feel that whoever is on the driver's seat from a chair perspective also affects or sort of plays a key role in how momentum is taken. True or false?
In fact, it's true on one side, and of course false by virtue that we need the participation of every head of partner states to make sure that the integration works. But something very interesting that we are seeing a lot of reforms that have been declared in the 25th Ordinary Summit sitting, and now the person taking the mantle has a very, very interesting history with the region, more than the rest of them. That is the President Yoweri Museveni.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the EAC treaty, the nickname of EAC treaty is M03. And M03, President Museveni was one of the M's in 1999 when they were re-establishing the East African Community. So in that, I believe, from where I sit, that if I compare all the partners, say the heads of the partner states, of course the heads of the government, President Museveni has very strong institutional memory, and of course he has a good mapping of where they wanted EAC to be. So now, when we come to the role of the chair, vis-a-vis now him, one is that the chair gives direction for the region, but most importantly, you realize that whenever we have challenges of disputes between the partner states and so forth, the chairperson actually is the one we are looking up to give direction on how those disputes will be solved through mediation or any other mechanisms. The chair is also very, very significant in calling the summit. Remember, the last summit was in 2024. The entire 2025, we did not have a sitting. If I interpret the provision of the EAC treaty, a summit should be sitting at least once in a year. And their failure to see that would mean that in that particular year, we do not have specific direction. Because when they sit and they give us what they have deliberated, we are able to track where have we come from, where are we, and where are we heading to. For example, EDA just mentioned about elimination of NTBs, which now they have said to be 30th. But there are a lot of things that are really need to be pressed. One of the again, challenge that adds cost into intra-regional trade from the private sector perspective is differences in currency. And in the EAC, the issue of monetary union is one of those pillars that we ought to have achieved. We want to see the new the new chairperson to be able to now take us and show us whether we are going to achieve the monetary union and eventually to other pillars like political federation and so forth.
Right. Quite interesting. Edie, I want to read your thoughts also on one of the things that came out from this particular summit. It has to do with the commitment, the push to actually eliminate the non-tariff barriers, yes, like you said, but also the aspect of walking the talk. Whenever there are agreements, decisions, resolutions, then we must all move together. But there's been a feeling that most of these statements end up being political rhetoric and not actually actualized on ground. What role then can private sector within the region do to be able to put to task the politicians as they are, to be able to walk the talk on some of the commitments that they make from the levels that they make them, like what we had at the summit itself?
No, you're very right. The challenge has been the delivery of the commitments, addressing honoring the commitments that are made at political platforms. And this has been the experience of years gone by now. Are we going to see anything different? Are we going to see the commitment to eliminate all the NTBs by 30th June? We're here to see, and we're here as private sector to push to it, to see to it that those commitments are delivered. But the question that I would have wished for you to ask, and maybe we should be conversing this about this, is when we talk about all NTBs should be cleared by 30th June. What NTBs are we talking about? If we clear all NTBs by 30th June, that means we will have borderless East Africa. When you're going to clear all the NTBs by 30th June, that means we can have ability to move around within EAC for our people and our goods with no hindrances. What I'm trying to say is the question that us as private sector are pushing and throwing it to the bureaucrats, is those NTBs that are said to be the ones that are to be cleared are not in the entirety of all the NTBs that businesses experience or feel when they're trading across EAC. So where we're seated is what we're going to do as private sector is first hold to account the NTBs that have been identified for elimination by 30th June.
Yeah.
We'll have a sharper advocacy role. We will engage with the relevant organs of EAC on a regular basis to see to it that we are tracking the clearance of those NTBs, but at the same time, we're going to give life to those NTBs that are not monitored or not reported or captured to the level of the Secretariat and hence being pushed to the summit level. So for us, it's going to be a two-pronged push and see to it that we advocate for clearance of the identified NTBs, what they call time-bound NTBs, by 30th June. This is on us as a private sector to see to it that that is delivered and in good time. But always at the same time, we're going to give life to all these other NTBs that are not captured for one reason or another and make sure that those are elevated as well.
Yeah. And when we talk about 30th of June, do you feel it's realistic, or do you feel this is just another big announcement?
Chances are extremely high that it's just a big populist announcement. But like I said, that is on them. They have said it. It's on us to follow through and make sure that that's delivered. And if it's not, we're going to have conversations with the general public on the progress of delivery of those commitments that have been made.
Yeah, thank you. Kennedy, how do we ensure that the citizen takes ownership of all these processes? Yes, we've spoken about the role of the head of states, the chair of the heads of state summit. We've spoken about the commitments that they're making 30th of June, but where is the citizen? Yes, we've heard from ED that they are also going to push through their role as the private sector arm of the region. But that common wananchi, as we commonly refer to them, who's listening to us or watching us from Nyabugogo, someone who's watching us from a village in Nyalenda in Kenya, what role then do they play in ensuring that they take over the region and own these processes themselves as well?
Thank you. If you look at Article 128 of the EAC Treaty, it actually mentions very clearly that the role of private sector, and that's we mean both business persons and even private individuals, they should be forming part and parcel of the regional integration. Now, let me pick it from where ED mentions about plans of eliminating NTBs, the mapped NTBs by 30th of June. Now, he mentions about advocacy, but from the legal standpoint and even involvement of other stakeholders is where we go back to the remedies.
Yeah.
If we do advocacy and there are no structures, remedies for any partner states failing to meet these commitments, it's as good as nothing, because again, our business persons that are engaged in ensuring that our economies grow, when you promise them that by 30th June you are going to eliminate, and then it continues beyond the 30th of June,
yeah,
the question would be, what stands now? Where do they turn to? I think is about now strengthening some of the institutions like the national monitoring committees. Now, the moment we strengthen them, it ensures that if at all there is that partner state who is still not able to, honor some of these by virtue of, making it difficult for cross-border trade, then we need to, crystallize the extent of harm. And then now this particular business person will be remedied or will be restituted to the effect of the losses, suffered.
Yeah.
That is one. The other one is the role of citizens, particularly. It should not be when we are talking about specific areas like, because what we are talking about as regional economic community or regional integration, it encompasses a different dimensions.
Yeah.
We have the trade as part of it. We have, social aspect of it. We have security, political soundness of our partner states. So now, when we have we focus on regional trade, but remember, elimination of NTB is just but one. If we have political instability, even if we eliminate NTBs, we still have a challenge, and therefore our people will still suffer, the private sector will still suffer. So for me, I would probably give my opinion insofar as ensuring that we involve everybody. We need representations at different levels. Representation, particularly when we are making key decisions, like the summit sitting, they made a declarations, they should be tasking the EAC secretariat to ensure that these things are followed. The challenge we have is that Edie mentions about the Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers plays a very critical role. But now the Council of Ministers is composed of the ministers who are in charge of the EAC at the partner state level. Now there are political appointees. You understand?
Absolutely.
Now, can't we have a structure whereby for example, secretariat, which is now composed of our technocrats, who are now, playing critical role in terms of, passing or even initiating policy. Because as of now, the policy-making body of the EAC is particularly the Council of Ministers.
Yes.
But again, we also struggle with the political will at the very top level, and these are the same. So I think we really need to rethink of how we are going to empower institutions within the EAC, and particularly the Secretariat. I want to give an example like the EU. EU is one of the best, best practice in terms of the integration. And the equivalent of the Secretariat is the EU Commission. When they make a statement, every member state of the EU will have to oblige to that. Here we still grapple with a lot of political, players that are making key decisions. So I believe we need to rethink and ensure that we let the integration be in the hands of the private by ensuring that our institutions are
strong. Edie, if I was to ask you then, from where you sit then,
sorry, maybe I could just add on to what Wakili has just said.
Absolutely, go ahead.
I think what is raised is very important, and what we are planning to do as private sector is to ask those very hard questions that Wakili is addressing. If the experiences of the NTB are lived by the traders, by the businessmen, the private sector, what are alternatives to see to it that these NTBs are not only left at the mercy of the bureaucracies of even the EAC secretariat? To me, that's an organ of the political leadership of the partner states. That can only address the NTBs to a certain level. There has to be total political will. There has to be commitment to the highest level. And that's expecting too much where, based on the situations that we're facing. What we should be doing as private sector is establish a mechanism that we can take to the public court this political leadership, let people, the common monarchy who experience the NTBs, put to task the political leadership like it has worked elsewhere. And then let's see how this will resolve the NTBs. Because for every day a container spends an extra day because of NTB at the border, for every police block that should not be there, that the businesses experience, that to a large extent means additional cost to the businesses, increased taxes, investors are turned away. So at the end of the day, private sector is the one that suffers based on these NTBs that are dependent on the political leadership to clear. So we have to be creative as private sector and determine what other alternative mechanisms can we impute within our ecosystem to make sure that we highlight and shout from the rooftop these NTBs that often than not either swept under the carpet or we pick and choose which ones to report to the summit and then now make those political commitments like 100% will be cleared.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's time now to name and shame, for lack of a better word. I think this is what you're trying to say.
To a very large extent, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The private sector has to step out of their comfort zone and now start owning these issues and taking it out to the public.
Yeah. I hear you. There's something critical that also happened at this particular summit, and that was around the reforms that were announced. A raft of them were mentioned, including the changes that are going to be happening from a contribution perspective, but also to another extent the payment of some of the staff of the organs of the EAC, like the East African Legislative Assembly. Let's take a look at the statement that was made by the outgoing chair of the EAC Heads of State Summit on these and more.
And finally, we have also taken the decision that the salaries of our employees as the East African community have not been reviewed for the last, we are told, since 2006. And therefore, we have taken the decision that there will be a review of salaries beginning January next year. And we have given one assignment. The issues we have mentioned here are not subject to any other discussion by any other person. They are the decision. They are the decisions of the summit. There is the EAC must harmonize textile standards, provide resources for ginning and spinning factories, and jointly market EAC textile to global buyers. The European, Asian, and African markets offer combined opportunities worth $6.8 billion annually if we position ourselves strategically. Ladies and gentlemen, the achievements we have recorded over the past year demonstrate that the EAC.
Yeah, there you have it. It's some of the raft of measures that were announced over there, and I know there are others, but I want to pick up on this statement on the salaries review, but also ask the question around the issue of contribution, which has also been an issue. We've had scenarios where there have been complaints that the operations of the Secretariat are being strained because of lack of proper contribution by member states. And so maybe I'll start with you, Wakili Kennedy. Hearing that, of course, we had applause in the room, those claps, that some people are happy that they're going to be having a review. And of course, the review will not be downwards. I'm sure it is going to be upwards. But as we speak about this review upwards of the size of the, those who will be serving or who continue to serve at the Secretariat and other organs of the EAC, let's talk a bit about this reform around the contribution, the 50-50%, the 50% contributed equally by all partner states, 50% based on each country's economic capacity. There's a concern here by some, and I don't know what you think about this. This reform, will it strengthen the financial sustainability and ownership of the regional projects, or is it going to be another cause for conflict or friction amongst those who are considered larger economies and those who are considered smaller economies?
Thank you. Let's start by analyzing the 2025-2026 budget of the EAC. The budget was around 109 million. Yeah. We could only raise around 60% of that. Yeah. And of course, with the challenges of non-remission from other partner states. Mm-hmm. At that point, there was equal contribution, irrespective of the economic, power, or rather GDP of a partner state. Yeah. Now, today, we have seen the changes now 50-50. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to check from other regional groupings, and I'm trying to, analyze even synthesize where they are coming from. Mm-hmm. For me, I still believe there would be challenges with that kind of contribution model. Mm-hmm. The best practices we could pick, like ECOWAS or the EU, which I mentioned, whereby for us to have sustainability in terms of financing the EAC affairs, we need to create, a guaranteed way of financing, and one of them should be maybe tied to taxes. So you provide a given percentage of partner states taxes, so that a partner state just does the collection and remits. Now this 50 equal contribution and then 50 based on the GDP. One equal contribution of 50 is just but reduced percentage for those who are not non-compliant. So if they were non-compliant 100%, probably we say they will be non-compliant 50%. You understand? So it does not solve the bigger issue. Two, if you talk about based on the strength of the GDP, it's another challenge altogether. 50% based on the strength of the GDP is something challenging, because hegemonic states like Kenya, for instance, that has very huge GDP. So technically, the EAC would be in the hands or in the mercy of the big economies, because if they don't behave, then that would mean that all the operations will collapse. Using that one and reflecting back, we have seen situations whereby remission of fees have been used to make statements.
Yeah.
If a partner state wants to make certain statement that they are not interested in certain ways in which directions in which the SCA is moving, then what will they do? They use the 50% to cripple the operation. So for me, I feel like they would have thought of another one, but there's a room. Let's see how this plays out. And then the next summit sitting, we see if there is any better way in which they're doing it. Now let's go to the review of the salaries.
Yeah.
It's okay to review salaries, but one thing is also, they also mentioned that from, I think December 2027, now the members of the East African Legislative Assembly will no longer draw their salaries from the EAC kitty, but they will be paid directly from their from their partner states. It's a good one because it's going to reduce the pressure on the EAC kitty. But now, when they increase the salary of which is a review of salary is good, but now looking at the way the budget is being consumed, in fact, the wage bill takes a very huge chunk. For me, I thought they would brought us some other ways in which to reduce that wage bill. Now the question is, as they increase these salaries, does it mean that now they have another mechanism other than the EALA now being paid by the member states? How are they going to manage so that we don't end up, paying a lot on the wage bill? While other projects, you said, what is the role of private sector? For us also to see an impact, we need the EAC to take center stage in terms of, participating in the infrastructure development. For example, the Northern Corridor, Central Corridor, I think we also have Southern Corridors. These are actually initiatives of the EAC. Do we entirely depend on the development partners to come on board and help us? Then
including the salaries.
Where does the money go? So we also need them to do a lot in terms of not only increasing the salaries for purposes of going to the pockets, they can even run very lean kind of offices so that the rest of the contribution comes back and making sure that we feel the impact at the very local levels.
Right. Edie, I'm keen to hear what your take is on this very crucial aspect of the reforms that were announced at the Extraordinary Summit. Edie, do we still have the Edie? We can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you very much. No, I hear what Wakili says, and it's true. For sustainability of the Secretariat, there has to be concerted effort to determine which other ways, innovative financing mechanism that can the Secretariat embody to keep itself afloat. For now, we have to give it to the heads of states. For East Africa, it's a good start, trying to impute fairness. And I mean fairness because the other decision which was done in the 23rd summit, the ratio of 65% equal share and 35% through a formula, that was heavy on the smaller economies, struggling economies for a start. Countries like Burundi, they were not remitting their contribution, not because they didn't want to, but they simply could not because of many other factors. Now, I'm calling it a a fair model for now, because 50% being equally shared, and the other 50% determined through a formula which could be lighter on the smaller economies which are struggling. The bigger challenge is the commitments. They need to be predictable. They need to be paid on time. And this, the waiver that was given, and then the incentive of 50% write-off of the all balances, so long as the payments are done within 2017, within 2 years. 2 years from today, or when the 25th summit was held, that is a step in the right direction. Also offloading. I think in the totality of the conversation, if you look at it, offloading the EALA salaries to the respective parliaments of the partner states, that also takes off a huge burden from the secretariat. And I think there have been significant staffing issues at the secretariat. This is a good start to try and resolve it by addressing the salary that was last reviewed in 2006. So I have to give it to the leadership for the thought process. This is just not an administrative issue that they have done.
Yeah.
It will go a long way to try and resuscitate the secretariat. But that should not stop the secretariat from thinking about innovative ways to finance the operations.
Right. There are those who've argued that debt forgiveness is teaching bad manners to member states, especially those who've actually sort of not pull their weight in contributing. They'll be like, again, they'll still forgive us. What must be done, Edie, to ensure that this debt forgiveness is not misunderstood, and it actually serves the ultimate purpose of ensuring that there's more commitment from those who are not able to pay out of genuine reasons, and it is not taken advantage of?
I think this goes to what Wakili said earlier on. The issue of commitments being said, populist statements being given, and a mechanism to hold one another accountable for the commitments made is something that we have to really think through it. In fact, before even we proceed, I thought this is a matter that Wakili will have probably brought up, and you can correct me, Wakili. I don't know what the statements that, the pronouncements that were held were made, and the announcements that was made that nobody is going to second guess the decisions, or there's no room to discuss. These are final decisions. For as long as these are not ratified within the treaty, I think somebody can go to court and also contest, isn't it?
I like that argument. Wakil, this is for you. Yeah.
Thank you, Edie. You've raised something very, very significant here. You look at some of those commitments that have been mentioned. In fact, they are directly amending the provisions of a treaty. Now, looking at the way the treaty operates, and you want to amend it by way of making public declaration, is a matter that not even that partner states will be pinned down. Because remember, in the 24th ordinary summit, they amended the language. What did they do? They made it, and then they said the treaty be amended to that effect. Now, this one, all the statements that were made, we did not see anywhere where they are now telling us now the treaty is going to be designed to give effect to some of these declarations. And that is a risk factor, particularly in terms of expecting a partner states now to abide by those particular declarations. Because what is binding anyway? I mean, going there on the press and saying, okay, this is what we have made a decision on. Yet this is an organization that is, premised on a living document. Yet this is a document you don't want to refer to. So the question would be, then if somebody fails to do it, and I want to go to the East African Court of Justice and say partner state X is not actually, implementing, I will not even have audience, because where would be the reference point? So I think from what Edie says, there's that element of, again, advocating to ensure that these statements don't only stop from where they had the meeting, but we want to see them probably giving directive to the East African Community Secretariat to begin process of trying to look into the treaty and make sure that they strengthen. Remember, there was also an indication of the decision-making process And there was an indication that, we've had a challenge of this consensus.
Yeah.
Because consensus, even though it does not require unanimous, decision where everybody has to vote, but, we have had what we call false consensus, where partner states just accept to ensure that the decision goes through, while them, they feel like maybe they withheld their dissenting opinion because they don't want to offend the other. But now, if you are talking about changing it for the good of the East African, we need to go to the provisions of the treaty and ensure that we are going to have qualified majority, or we are going to have the 65% that they were trying to prompt.
Yeah.
And then another thing is about sanctions, which is also a weak link within the EAC treaty. If you reflect on what the outgoing chairperson was talking about, is that now that if a partner state doesn't do certain thing, then what is going to happen? Then they will be vetoed for not to benefit from the EAC treaty. But if you look at the sanction regimes that we have within the EAC, none of them has ever been used. For example, have we ever seen, now we are talking about arrears and they're even getting waivers, but did you see them taking a step to suspend? Because the treaty says that if a partner state fails to abide by the provisions of the treaty for 18 months, for example, then they should be sanctioned. So the summit itself should sit and sanction that. And one of the sanctions that is provided for is to suspend these partner states
from the community.
From the community. And suspension, if this suspension lasts for a given period of time, they become automatically expelled from the community. But now, these arrears that we are talking about, one of the partner states had 27 million, another one 22 million, another one 21 million US dollars, another one 10 million. Some of those have even surpassed the 18 months. Did they use any suspension? So now, if they want to introduce a more stiffer ways in which they want to sanction their members, then we need to see it being reflected in the EAC, because that is where now the private sector will also have opportunities to go and challenge them before the East African Court of Justice or any other dispute settlement forum within the EAC. Could
the region be putting in effect the sanctions, quote unquote, through what we saw happen through the rotational basis of some of these positions, like the Secretary General? We had expected, from a rotational perspective, it was supposed to go to South Sudan, if I'm not wrong, but it instead went to Tanzania. And there's been argument that the reason why South Sudan did not get the Secretary General position this time round, although they were the ones on next in line, is because of the issue of the contribution. Is this enough to push the member states to be able to participate in the activities of the region?
In fact, it's like putting the horse before the cart, or the vice versa. Because strictly speaking, of course, EAC is premised also on the principle of equal benefit. And this equal benefit can only be having an exception where a partner state is not playing by the rules, as we mentioned. But looking at it deeply, if you don't give a partner state a position that they ought to have taken based on the rotational basis, deeply speaking, I see like you are punishing the East African. You are not punishing the partner states, because probably there would be somebody, or there is somebody who was qualified for that position for a given partner state. But just because you failed to pronounce yourself against these partner states, now that person who was qualified and probably has done a lot of lobbying, use resources, or he has been doing something so that he could push himself as the most favorite. But the person ends up not getting a position just because the decisions were made at the political level. So I think before you deny, an East African or a citizen of a partner state an opportunity to serve in a position that they would otherwise been fit on, there should be those attempts to call out, not only publish, because what they are doing is, the media mentions, and then they also say, okay, so and so is not contributing. But again, we don't see that they went ahead and, you talk about name and shame. I know, because it's a group of elites of equal arms. At times, it's very difficult for them to do that. But what if they come up with a mechanism? I talked about the suspension. If they try just once, we'll be able to say, okay, so now even if you deny them opportunity to be given that rotational basis, then at least it makes sense, because you already, did this or that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, Edie, I know time is running, but we're about to end. But I want to discuss the issue of expansion of the community, and of course, how that is either working for or against the integration process. I know it started small, it's now grown. We're talking about Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, DRC, and Somalia. There's someone somewhere seated and is like, okay, when we were few, we were quite better off. We moved really fast. We decided quickly. The process were much better. Then there's another one who's arguing and saying, no, but we've grown in terms of the market. It's huge and it's good. From where you sit, how do you see this? Should we be looking at the mass, quantity versus quality? How do we analyze this from where you sit?
Look, capital always follows scale. And the bigger our partnership in the community, the better. It provides a bigger market, which gives us stronger bargaining power, creates opportunity for wider supply chains. It plugs us into more strategic trade routes and corridors and ports and hinterlands. Basically, there's a lot of value in us coming together as one larger market. I mean, with DRC, EAC now is touching both the Indian Ocean and the other side, the Pacific. That can only augur well for us in terms of having a stronger and weightier geopolitical weight that we can use for investment attraction, enhancing security for region and all. But of course, it has its downside as well. And the downside, to me, it's one that we can live with and we can find mechanisms to address them. Every knife has two edges. For the more countries coming in, first it's how are they inducted into the community? Did we incubate them? Did we get them ready? Did they make all the necessary domestications that are required of the EAC instruments? Those are the teething problems that I can see we're experiencing as EAC. And of course, the more we are, it takes a bit longer to make decisions. Consensus can take a bit longer. We can have challenges around dispute resolution. Of course, the more it means creates opportunity for more disputes. So for me, it's only a good thing, but we just need to manage it better. We need to manage our expansion better, transition the countries that are joining into the community, incubate them and prepare them so that we minimize on the teething problems.
Yeah. Interesting. Wakili, numbers versus impact and reality on ground. Some would argue, okay, we're just looking to have big numbers on paper, but on ground, we are not really even trading with each other as much as we would be expected to. We still have countries within the East African community who have shut their borders right in the faces of each other. There are those who can't. If you're attending, I will not attend from some of these big summits and big events. So how do we move from here? How do we ensure that this does not stand as a risk to the whole integration process? Even as Edie says, we must find mechanisms to fix some of these disagreements that we have.
Thank you. Of course, growing in numbers is an appetite for a bigger market that drives it, which is very significant because we are talking about regional economic cooperation. So economics, or rather trade and so forth, make a bigger, objective than the political and governance issues. That's what we are seeing. But something very interesting when we are onboarding partner states, we begin by a process called verification process.
Yeah.
Now, verification process is where the prospective partner states puts an interest, and then after that, from the EAC Secretariat, they organize for them to go and ensure that that particular prospective partner state is having, all that is needed for them to come on board.
Yeah.
One of them is good governance, and two is that they must also uphold certain principles like the human rights and so forth. Now we always make assumption that at the point of a partner state being onboarded, all these have been taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, technically, if we are supposed to go by the onboarding procedures provided for by the EAC treaty, then if we onboard a partner state, then we should be expecting this partner state not even to have political instability in the first place. Because if you bring a partner state where there are no governors, there is a lot of political instability, that means that the verification process does not serve purpose. But what we are seeing now is that we're still on board, but we are inheriting problems, particularly in terms of political aspects and so
that
forth. That they come with. And this provides a bigger burden to the regional. So at times we say that even the benefits that we need to acquire from these growing numbers is going to be outweighed by the challenges that we are acquiring through the new membership. That is one. Two is that once a new partner state has been onboarded, they are given timelines within which they are supposed to ratify, some of those, protocols. Because remember, operationalization of the EAC treaty is through protocols, Customs Union Protocol, Common Market Protocol, and among others. Now, when they are given timeline and they don't abide by, that is where now challenge comes from.
Yeah.
For example, the free movement of persons. Within the EAC, we are not supposed to expect, difficulties, but it is not uncommon that today some partner states is not still giving that freedom of trying to pass or rather get to their territories as would be a citizen of a partner state of the East African community.
Yeah.
Recently we saw Somalia moving so quickly to adopt the EAC passport, bypassing another partner state that they were admitted with.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of imbalance in terms of how they are selectively implementing the EAC treaty and those other protocols. But something also very, very, very burning is that we are onboarding even the partner states that already have multiple membership to other regional blocks.
Yes.
And therefore, this is also creating more of conflicting interests, because at the end of the day, when they're making their policies, one of the things is that all the states, or whether you are a member of whatever, you'll only push hard what is giving you more interest than the other. So there's also those elements of multiple memberships as we also on board. So the question that should therefore be asked is that now we have onboarded, we are 8. Do we still need more? Yes, there are mark timing partners, like I think there was a time that they were saying even Ethiopia is considering to join. But now we have a fair share of challenges. How are they going to assure us that already that the way we are today and those existing challenges are going to be solved? Otherwise, that would mean that we are adding another partner state, these challenges still exist, and then what does it mean? It is taking us back to 1977, when those political undertones led to the collapse of the EAC. In fact, we don't want the EAC to collapse, we want EAC to grow. So if looking at it keenly, we should first ensure that the house is in order before we add another. I would really personally, if at all they are intending to onboard, we need to settle political issues that are within the South Sudan. We have issues, security issues in the DRC, and also electoral issues that we experienced in the United Republic of Tanzania. We experienced a bit of unsettlement in Uganda. Kenya is having election next year. So we really need to make sure that we put everything in order so that we don't see that adding a bigger number is actually going to make the region collapse.
Yeah. If someone was listening to us, I think we've been speaking for the last 1 hour, close to an hour, I think, and for them, they still feel not convinced at all that the East African community that they dreamt of, they knew of, still exists. From a customs union implementation to common market protocol to the future monetary union and even the political federation, and I've heard about the confederation aspect coming in. What message do you give such a person who feels like they already lost hope? This thing is no longer what I really thought it would have been. What sort of message would you tell such a person who's feeling that way right now?
I think it's a well-placed feeling. It's what I call experiencing and living EAC. We know the potential of EAC. Wakili has alluded to some of the challenges of the imbalance between partners and their readiness and their willingness to be part and parcel of the integration. So by all measure of assessment, we are living an uneven EAC. Some corridors and sectors are easier to travel than others. Some countries are easier to. We have the cow within the EAC, the coalition of willing, on issues to do with the single tourism and the use of ID to move around people between the countries. Opportunities of trade, again, there's quite an imbalance between our partner states. Bureaucracies that are persistent and the costs. The test really is on the measures of ability to do business for us as businesses. The time to do business, the cost to do business, the complexity to do business, and the stability of our economies. That's the measure of the integration to us as businesses and the citizens. What is the space for SME participation? It's not enough to just have protocols and commitments. Like I said, the businesses leave the integration. So for now, we're not leaving the integration. It's quite uneven. So we cannot stop hoping and pushing for a better EAC. We have committed to it. We're married. We're enjoined. And now it's for us to make it work. And it's us as private sector, voice of private sector, to speak for the private sector to see to it that we lead to these commitments that are being made at the political level.
Yeah, powerful. Kennedy, what would you tell such a person who's feeling hopeless? He says, if there's a country that is within EAC that makes it difficult even for fellow citizens from the same region not to work and operate freely or do business easily, then what is the meaning of this EAC? There's someone who's probably feeling this way. What message do you tell that person today?
I think all is not bad. We have something, and we only need to ensure that different stakeholders play their roles. I'm glad that we have very strong statement from the EAD, East African Business Council, and if we could also have other actors within the EAC. We have the lawyers like me. We have civil society organizations, so that they are able to ensure that they call out. Because again, if we just leave it in the hands of the politicians, then you see where we are. We keep mark timing. Now, but there's also something that from especially to the ED and the private sector, we also need a lot of statistics. We need data so that we are able to call out, or rather we are able to know which partner state is at what level of integration. Sometimes when we do a blanket condemnation, at times it's very difficult for us to find treatment, or rather address the issue. So probably they will go a notch higher and tell us, okay, from the business point of view, or from the cross-border point of view, cross-border business point of view, which partner states are ahead of the rest. He mentions about the single tourist visa, which is now between Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, use of IDs and all that. When it occurred in 2013, it was not because these partner states were running away from others, but is what we call a variable speed, where certain partner states will feel like, okay, we're okay to move ahead while expecting others to join. But the question is, even these others, they have not seen that it is of significance for them to join the one, a tourist visa. They don't still allow they travel with the IDs, then that shows you that probably they are viewing these other partner states as people who are already, trying to profile themselves and let, others stay behind. So that is where now, if we could come on board with all the force, because again, sometimes you don't wait for people to give you something. At times you go for that what belongs to you, because the regional integration actually belongs to us as a people.
Yeah.
So we need now to start documenting. The media, you play a critical role. Document for us. Tell us, okay, from these particular stories, this partner state is lagging us behind. And all these ones now, for them, they will also be able to, see, and then of course they won't be willing to be put on the bad side of the books.
Yeah.
And probably with time they keep changing. But again, the regional integration is good so far. We see the fruits. One-stop border post, we see ease of movement, even though not all of them. But again, we still need to do a lot more to ensure that we get the full benefits.
Right. If there's one word you can say in closing, if the next EAC Heads of State Summit reconvenes, what's that one major thing that you hope will be announced as an achievement from the time these announcements were made from this one?
If at all, elimination of NTBs, not necessarily 100%, but the mapped one, if they could do above 90%.
That would be a success.
Because from what they have said in this 25th sitting, they have really been very intentional in terms of ensuring that NTBs are eliminated. So if it can happen, then we would see more of a boost in the intra-regional trade. Right now, I think if ED is around, he would tell you probably between 10 and 15%. That's how we trade with one another. So it means that our members partner states still trade with the outside world more than how they trade with themselves. So as long as they are going to commit and they are going to ensure that they eliminate NTVs, we'll be able to see numbers. So in the next reporting, we'll see maybe we have 20%, from the low percentage in terms of intra-regional trade. Another thing we mentioned about giving effect to the treaty. We also wish that by the time they sit, they shall have realized the significance of putting all these commitments within the EAC treaty, so that it gives us leeway to take any judicial remedy within the regional court, like the East African Court of Justice. And then from there now we'll be able to say whatever they made, the commitment they made actually coming to work for the East Africans.
Right. Edie, I want to give you the final word. Just like we started with you, I'd like you to close for us in terms of your reflections. If the next EAC Heads of State Summit was to be held, what would success look like for you in a nutshell? But also the aspect of continuity, because most of the times the push for integration has been sort of left to the politicians, and with election period, a leader who's elected who has no interest in EAC issues, they'll always focus on their own issues, and that affects the regional economic growth. How do we institutionalize and make sure that we have strong institutions, that it doesn't matter who's the president or who's the minister of EAC, but work continues. I'll throw one last one for young people. If I didn't ask this, then I would have failed in my role here. Young people, especially the face of young people within the EAC organs, so that it encourages them as well to feel like this is an organ that is part and parcel for them as well. What must be done in terms of systems shifts?
Thank you. Maybe I should start with that heavy question you've asked, because that's the most important question so far that you've asked. The majority of our people is youth, over 60-70%. And if there's no dedicated focus on how the EAC can embrace and support the youth, then there's something that we really are missing. My ambition and what I want to see, and this will be championed by private sector, is that the EAC should build a truly regional startup ecosystem for our youth. We need to harmonize the rules around fintech and e-commerce. We have to enable cross-border digital payments. We have to reduce the roaming and data costs that currently do exist, are quite exorbitant. So Basically, at the EAC level, I want to see wider innovation grants coming up and opportunities provided more for the youth. And us as private sector, and I have started a lot of some discussions already with some academic institutions, some of them are organs of EAC. How can we create incubation centers across our partner states and provide a breeding ground for what I call job creators as opposed to job seekers or from our youth? So we have to enhance mobility, whether it's for tools or people. We have to harness talent, and we have to have mechanisms and protocols that support that. So what do I want to see in the next in our next summit is I want to see results. I want to see integration being experienced by businesses. I don't want the way it is right now. We're being sung for, we're being spoken about, but I know for a fact the day that our businesses will start living integration, will start feeling integration in their daily business lives, we will be the ones singing from the rooftop on the successes of EAC. Until then, we'll have to continue holding to account the commitments that are being given, and those that are not being reported and captured for the commitments, we have to champion them as private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Farah, the Executive Director, East African Business Council, joining us all the way from Arusha, Tanzania. Thank you very much for making the time, even on short notice. We appreciate your time and insights on the systems audit today, right here on EAMG TV. And of course, Wakili Kennedy Abuya, also thank you very much for making time and for your insights as always right here on EAMG TV. And to you who've been watching, we want to say thank you for making time. Did you hear anything that made so much sense for you on this program today? If there's a lot that touched you, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us through following and subscribing to our channels. That's at EAMG TV. We'd love to get your feedback and, of course, talk to us on the systems that you feel need to shift for us to be able to feel and enjoy the fruits of regional integration. Next time, we'll be able to have another conversation, and so we welcome you to be part of this engagement. On behalf of myself and the team right here at EAMG TV, we say asante sana, murakoze chane, merci beaucoup. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Edie. Thank you so much.